America's winning, winning, winning like never before.
We got the hostages back.
The most challenging breakthrough maybe ever. It's incredible.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Stock market's at an all-time high.
Crime numbers are way down.
We have the greatest country in the world, and we're back.
We're bringing back law and order to D.C., Chicago, Los Angeles.
He doesn't believe in the rule of law. He believes in the rule of Don, period, full stop.
Charlie Kirk murdered.
There are so many acts of political violence, we can't keep track.
It's up to the Republicans whether they want to shut down or not.
It's all because of the Democrats.
When is someone going to get into the business of better?
Live from the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts in Washington, D.C., welcome to the NewsNation Town Hall to tackle the biggest issues that are facing our country today. Hosted by Chris Cuomo with Stephen A. Smith and Bill O'Reilly.
Wowee! Wowee! I should travel with these guys more often. All right. Let's get down to what matters, all right? Let me just say some quick thank yous so we can get to the big names. We have a parade of players for you tonight. And I love that we're having this moment together. The thank yous for the people at home watching on the CW, for the people listening on Sirius XM, to our sponsor, Sling, for allowing us, Sling, to have the conversation with limited commercials, which is so key so that people can talk and feel free. And I'm not giving them this sign the whole time. And to the faithful of NewsNation, who know that this is where right and left come to be reasonable. Thank you each and all for being with us tonight. Second, thank you to Stephen A. and to William J. Big names, big game. Thank you for lending your cachet and your credibility to our efforts at NewsNation. I appreciate you every night, and especially tonight. Why? Third, thank you so much for being here. I'll give you a secret. I came out before just to thank people for coming. Not that I thought we'd be alone, but because I think it's so important to do what we're doing tonight. For NewsNation, a startup, to put people like this into the John F. Kennedy Center, all the history of the humanities and art and of what makes America great, to come here during this time. Kennedy Center, Eisenhower Theater, the metaphor is balance, right and left to be reasonable. I'll give you an inside pro tip, just between us. If I had only wanted to do this with one side tonight, the production would have taken us about 15 minutes. Why? Because once you have one, the other ones want to come in so they don't have that shine taken from them. But when you ask people to come and sit down together from the two sides, when the division is what is being glorified and amplified, it's hard. So every man and woman you will see here tonight aren't just players. They are brave enough to break the game, which is what we need to do as Americans. Am I right? Good. So let us start with conversation as a cure. And I wanted to talk to you first because it may be my last chance to speak tonight. So I wanted to get it out of the way. And thank you. I want to start with each of you two beautiful gentlemen. What matters to you most, Stephen A. Smith, right now about what's happening in our country?
Well, I just think that we've got to come together as a nation. We've got to recognize the fact that we're deteriorating before our very eyes. Decorum is out the window. Divisiveness is in vogue. It's permeated and invaded our society in such a way that there's not going to be peace in the streets. You know, Capitol Hill is going to be Capitol Hill, and they're going to do what they do. But when you're as vitriolic towards one another as they've been, whenever disagreement takes place in the binary system, and you're asking the American people to choose a side, whoever chooses the opposite side of you is an excuse for your vitriol to permeate. And we can't have that, because ultimately it's going to lead to an absence of peace, which is going to lead to chaos. And that's not going to get America anywhere. We're going to be celebrating what's going on in other places throughout the world. But at some point in time, we need to be appalled at the fact that we're not celebrating more about what's going on here.
Well said. And congratulations, Bill did not cut you off. Very good. We have a great streak. Mr. O'Reilly, when you look at where we are, what matters to you to address?
Well, first of all, I put together the Three Americans concept. This is an offshoot of the Three Americans concept. And I wanted Cuomo and Smith to be part of it because together they make me look much smarter. All right? So it's purely selfish. The country is in a change mode. We're in flux. Everything's changing. Economy's changing, social mores are changing, media is collapsing right before our eyes. And my job as a independent is to bring some understanding to it all. See, I'm not that concerned about the polarization and the back and forth. There are lines that need to be drawn and adhered to. But that's always been the case. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, oh, gee, they hate each other. And they would use surrogates to just knife, and it's always going to be that way because the pursuit of power is like the pursuit of money. All right? You can't get enough. They can't get enough. And if there's somebody trying to inhibit their power, they want to hurt them. They want to diminish them. So I'm realistic in the sense of being a historian, to know that's not going to change. But what has to change is your understanding of really what's happening, really what's going on here. And that's why NewsNation is so valuable, because the others play to a choir. They play to a certain segment of the population. They tell them every night what they want to hear, because you can make easy money doing that. All right? But NewsNation doesn't do that. It wants everybody to look in and decide who's got the stronger argument. Now, when I started Fox, that's what the philosophy was, but that's changed a bit. And the reason all of it has changed is because of Donald Trump. He's so overwhelming, his presence is so massive that he dominates every news cycle. And everything that happens that he does is blown up into this colossal debate between the progressive left and the conservative right. And if you think back, George W. Bush wasn't even close to that. Barack Obama was a little polarizing, but he didn't want to be. It was just, you know, but it wasn't close. Biden was taking a nap, so nobody knew what he was talking about. But then Trump comes on, and just, it's like, boom, you're just pinned to your seat. But you got to understand the why of what he is doing, and the other power brokers as well.
The one thing that I would say is this. You can understand the why. Bill's absolutely right. But the times that we're living in, those past presidents, you talk about the advent of social media, the reach that you can have as a candidate, as an elected official, the way that decisions, perspectives can be disseminated to a point where it can influence so many lives and cause a fervor. That's different than it was in the past. And when Bill brings up the media, he's absolutely right from this perspective. There's absolutely positively no excuse for a member of the media, I'm talking about a journalist, to take a side. The facts are the facts. Like, I didn't vote for Trump. I'm not the biggest fan of how he behaves. But the fact is that if he's done a good job, give him credit for doing a good job. If he's done a good job here, fine. If he hasn't done a good job there, fine. Call it as you see it, because you have to make sure that the public at large is able to look at you and say that I trust that you believe what you're saying you believe, and that it's based on factual information and not your personal feelings or personal animus. And when you do that, then you galvanize the American people, because they're going to say, okay, I can trust you. And as a result, there won't be a dissipation or a diminished level of trust in the media. What has happened to the media is that, unfortunately, too many people are looking to say things just to be saying things, just to have a particular side, because it gets them paid. Well, guess what? it's damaging to the country. And I think that you have an obligation to think about the country more than you're thinking about just yourself when you are a member of the media or you have the kind of influence that media is supposed to have. That level of sensitivity is required for any conscientious soul that has the interests of the American people ahead of themselves.
Appreciate it. All right. There was one person I felt we had to have tonight, all right? First issue has to be the shutdown, right? Embarrassing. The only thing you can count on is that whoever is driving it is saying that they had to do it this time, and the other side is saying you shouldn't weaponize it this way. And they just go back and forth, and it makes you not like anybody. The man in the middle, the man I believe is the most important senator in the country right now, is Pennsylvania's John Fetterman, because he is, maybe because of his size, able to hold on to what he believes are his principles. And he could be the deciding vote. Remember, this isn't about the House, it's about the Senate. And we are fortunate enough to have Senator John Fetterman joining us right now. Senator, Pennsylvania. Move down.
Yeah, move it down there.
Right here.
We'll put this. All right. Senator gets situated. Bill, find your seat.
I didn't hear the music.
No, you're all right.
Isn't there music?
You're all right. Bill's
and
lost.
It stops and you get a chair.
Bill's lost. Where's Spencer? Get him up here. Sit him down. All right, there we go. All right. Everything's fine again. Senator, thank you for joining us. Stephen A., what do you have for the senator?
Was there a dress code?
No, sir.
I missed that.
No, sir. We don't play that here. Not at your size.
Okay, yeah.
Two-part question. Number one, when the hell is the shutdown going to end? And number two, who's most culpable for the shutdown taking place to begin with?
What, the shutdown? I think right now I'm only one of 2 Democrats that are voting to keep the government open. And now I have chose to do that because I think it's like a core responsibility as a senator to keep our government open. The Democratic Party, my party, the Republican Party, they have different priorities. And that's how democracy, you sort those things out. But you don't hold shutting the government down as a hostage.
Why are you a Democrat, though? And I don't say that being a wise guy. You support Israel, correct?
Yeah, well, okay. I do, and that's been isolating too.
All right,
because
but look, you support Israel, and the progressives don't, generally speaking. You are for a very rigorous defense against Putin in Ukraine, correct? You want to stop him, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I would fully support. In fact, I just on social media, I encourage President Trump to provide tomahawks to the Ukrainians.
Okay.
I mean, it's like he is probably the only person in the world that could end this terrible war. And I think, why can't we all agree that that's necessary?
You're not a wild spender. You want to get the debt under control. So why are you Democrat? Your party is against you on all 3 of those issues.
Well, I mean, a lot of the things that maybe I really believe in calling balls and strikes, and I think I want to follow the truths. You know, and
why aren't you an independent then?
Well, I mean, those are some independent thoughts, but overall, I mean, you have to pick one side, Republican,
Why?
Democrat. That's always been my party. And Bill, let me just say, it's like I'm the only Democrat in my family. I grew up in a conservative part of Pennsylvania, and I grew up and I know and I love people that voted for President Trump, but they are not fascists. They're not Nazis. They're not trying to destroy the Constitution and those things. And that's part of another thing. I refuse to call people Nazis or fascists, or I would never compare anybody to Hitler and those things. And now that kinds of extreme rhetoric is going to continue. We're going to be more likely in resulting in extreme kind of outcomes and political violence and doing all these kinds of things like Charlie Kirk. For me, all I could say is like, let people grieve. Give people the space. I'm not going to use that terrible thing and that Pasek assassination to make my argument and try to put out my views. It's like, my God, you know, he's a father that had his neck blown out by a bullet. And now people have forgotten. President Trump was in my state, was shot in the head. And if that would have, could you imagine where our nation would be if he was hit in the same way with Kirk? We really got to turn the temperature down. And we can agree to disagree on these kinds of things. But right now, shutting down the government. I just can't take it that.
So what do the Democrats, your contemporaries, say to you when you say that to them?
What do I say to them is like...
No, what do they say to you when you say that?
What do they say to me?
Yes.
Yeah, well, parts of my base are angry with me.
No.
And primarily, which is really strange. Run the numbers. I vote, I think, 90% plus Democrat, but they're angry, and but I, with my base, very, very angry about me being fully, unapologetically supportive for Israel. And that really pushed that. I've backed Israel through this entire thing. Now, of course, it's heartbreaking in the tragedy in Gaza and what's happened to the innocent Palestinians. Now, for me, I blame Hamas and Iran and Hezbollah and some other people. They'll believe Israel, and I refuse to do that.
Let's get an audience question. Varian, please. Where are you from, and what is your question for the senator?
Good evening, gentlemen. Great to see you again. Darian Roget from the great state of New Jersey. Drove down just to see you guys. I saw you guys at Westbury in Long Island on the Three Americans tour, thanks to Bill, a few months ago. Pleasure to be here. So my question is about the leaderless, rudderless, dilapidated state of the Democratic Party at the moment. And I can say this as a Republican, I'm elated by that, but I also believe we do need two robust political parties in this country, at least. So do you think the Democratic Party will eventually moderate a la Bill Clinton circa 1992 and find a political third way eventually by the time of the 2028 presidential election? Or, on the other hand, do you think they continue down the sort of where the energy of the party is, right? The far left, AOC, Zohran Mamdani-esque trajectory nationally, and which, in my opinion, is doubling down on stupid on the issues that cost them the 2024 election, and continue, as the august Bill O'Reilly would say, continue being pinheads. So that's my question.
Excellent question, but I want the senator to answer. Do you see any moderation of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party?
The question,
you see
the question was for the senator.
Well, I mean...
By the way, Bill, so you know. I know he called you august, but the question was for the senator.
My earpiece isn't working.
Yeah.
Who is this? I don't even know who he is.
Please lean back. Go ahead, Senator.
Yeah. Well, if you're thinking about winning the election, and so now that's all going to come down to 7 or 8 states, and that's really that matters. And I would like to remind everybody, because we all know that Trump ran the table, all of those kinds of states. And now you can't ever forget, these are the states that are going to determine who's going to be the next administration. And now a lot of the things, the extremism that people turned their back in 24, and that's how we kind of came up short. I campaigned for thousands of miles across Pennsylvania for Vice President Harris. And it was going to be incredibly difficult. You could just feel the energy there, and people really have connected there at a very fundamental level. And that's what I tried to explain to my party, and I'm trying to explain to the party right now. It's like, this is why we lost, and this is where we need to be to continue to win for these things. And there are parts of extreme things emerging clearly on those things, and that's why I refuse to follow that, even if that is going to cost me support in parts of the base.
Do you think Harris could have gotten a deal with Hamas?
Well, you brought up a good point. I think I was the only Democrat early on to give President Trump credit for the peace deal. Why wouldn't you?
Do you think Harris could have gotten it?
Well, again, I don't know. She's not the president. But where I'm at right now, it's like, ask any of the hostages or their families. They think President Trump was a hero, and he deserves, the kind of deal for that thing. I think that was really a remarkable development.
Do you think Harris could have got him out?
No.
I think it's a silly question.
It's a what?
I think it's a silly question.
Wait. Do you agree that's a silly question?
That's why they're clapping. They're clapping because they...
Security.
No,
right here.
I think the most important point is just realizing who did it, not hypothetically or anything. I'm saying it's like, here's what happened. And there are actual members of my party that have refused to even acknowledge that this was significant. You know, and that's for me, where it's like, hey, you know, our politics might be different, but this was a significant development.
Okay.
And now also it's what Israel was able to accomplish. You know, they had to neutralize Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and Iran. And also another thing, the Iranian nuclear facilities. I mean, like, I was the only Democrat that supported, you have to destroy those facilities. Can you imagine if they didn't, Iran could be acquiring a nuclear bomb, you know, who knows, within the next year?
Let me say this. Out of respect to Kamala Harris, let me tell you why she deserves an explanation as to why I don't think she could have gotten it done. Because leading into the election, what was the problem? It was extreme capitulation to the progressive left, who were finding reasons to side with, you know, I don't want to say siding with Hamas. I certainly don't want to accuse them of that. But it just seemed like whatever they wanted, the left that wasn't far left was leaning more left. And so because of that, why should we believe that all of a sudden she'd get into office and she'd forget what she thought got her there? That's the only reason I'm saying that. Having said that, I'd like to get back to the person that asked the question, and I'd like to remind them that's part of the problem, respectfully, when you're calling them pinheads and going through all of this other stuff. See, that kind of name calling feeds into things.
Yeah, but he did it in a funny way.
Let me explain what yeah, it's a funny way.
Wasn't malice.
I didn't say he was malice. I didn't say there was malice. What I'm saying is that you have to take into consideration how the other side is going to react to it. When I think about the Democrats right now, you ask the question as to what change is going to take place. Will they change? Could they ever change? Well, a lot of that depends on the midterm election. If they lose the midterm election, they'll change. They got no choice if they want to have a shot in 2028. If they don't, they get blitzed like they did in 2024. Then guess what? It's going to incentivize them to change. So it all depends on the midterm election.
Did you hear what he said about the Mets? Come on, you're crucifying them. So if
I didn't crucify him. He and I just waved at each other.
No,
he didn't crucify. The only person that's using that word is you.
If you feel that the other side, with the other team or whatever, and I want to get your opinion on this, is doing something bad for the country, then you go after them, right?
Yeah, well, it's like that's why shutting the government is really what the Democratic Party wants to do. And I follow country, then party, and it's the wrong thing for the country in a period of chaos. I refuse to vote to shut our government down. I absolutely would love to have... I would love to have a conversation about extending the tax credits for health care. Absolutely. But I would remind everybody, too, this was designed by the Democratic Party to expire at the end of the year. This is not something taken by the Republicans. They were designed to expire. Now let's have a conversation to extend it and not shut our government down, and let's continue to have.
Thune has already agreed to that.
Well, I mean that.
You know that.
Well, for me, I do believe Leader Thune is an honorable man, and I do believe he's not going to lie. I mean, you can't guarantee any outcome, but what I'm saying, that's talking about what's wrong for the country. I can't vote for I can't vote to shutting our government down.
I think that you guys have the right fight, but the tactics get in the way, and the absolutism gets in the way. Senator, I'll let you go on this. First of all, thank you very much for joining us.
It was nice of him.
And as somebody who was raised by a real one when it comes to Democrats, my father, politics was very simple for Mario Cuomo. Facts change.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him.
Me too.
The bridge. He's the bridge.
I hear him in my mind all the time. Facts change. Principles do not. And whether it's how you decide to present yourself where you connect to your constituents or that you are willing to take the beating that comes along with it, I think that's honorable no matter what your party is. I just have one question as you go. Senator, do you still love public service? And if you knew when you first decided to run for Senate what you know now, would you have still done it?
Oh, yeah, it's an incredible honor to be Pennsylvania's voice in the Senate. You know, and now I'm found to work a way forward with my new friend, you know, Dave McCormick, the Republican there too. You know, he is a Republican, but we get along. Some people are angry at that, and we're going to work to find wins for Pennsylvania. And now that's come up where I know what pays the bills, and saying outlandish things and call people names and calling them pieces of whatever and those things. I refuse to do that. You have to find to work people together. And I was able to work with Secretary Duffy, you know, and I was able to unfreeze $1.3 billion of projects in Pennsylvania. That's a significant win, because that's why, to your point of, we have to work together for these constituents. I know that's not about the clicks online. It's about real jobs, real projects that impact real Pennsylvanians. You know, when you're crossing a bridge or these things, it's like, are you a Republican or Democrat? You know, we're all driving over these kinds of things. So these are important projects, and that's why I refuse to just call someone a name, and we have to find for wins, and that's where we're at.
Senator John Fetterman, thank you for joining us on News Nation. Yeah. You are always willing to be here to make the case. We'll take a break. When we come back, shutdown is very big. What's happening in the country with ICE is very big. We have the man in command. Tom Homan joins us. And for a look at what the Senate could be, what government could be, who knows better than Senator Joe Manchin, who will join us. So stay with News Nation, where conversation is the cure. Thank you.
The News Nation Town Hall is brought to you by Sling. Choose and customize your channel lineup, or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
All right, thank you for being here for the News Nation Town Hall at the Kennedy Center. We had a great conversation with Senator Fetterman. So we go from the shutdown to what could be seen as one of the most divisive issues in the country, which is, of course, immigration. I would say immigration enforcement, okay? All the policy decisions made by any level of government go through Tom Homan, and he joins us right now. Mr. Homan, thank you for being with us.
Thanks for having me. So I have the first question here. I know George Stephanopoulos is one of your best friends. Mm-hmm. He convicted you on television, okay, of a $50,000 bribe. Stephanopoulos did this on ABC. The vice president, J.D. Vance, defended you. And I thought he did so pretty well, because due process is important. Do you want to clarify anything about that situation?
I didn't take $50,000 from anybody.
Okay. How did that get into the mainstream, do you think?
I have no idea. Look, there's been hit pieces on me since I came back to this administration. There's got to be 30, 40 hit pieces on me about how I'm involved with contracts and government contracts, when in fact, day one I came back, I recused myself from any discussions on any contract or any monetary decisions like that, because I used to have a company that did consulting. So I cleared myself day one. What people don't talk about is I took a significant, huge pay cut to come back and serve my nation. And I'm not enriching myself doing this job.
Does this make you angry that they're coming at you this way?
I don't care what people think about me, and never have. No, because I know who I am. I work for the greatest president in the history of this nation, in my opinion, and we're doing the right thing every day.
Okay, I got one more question, then you guys jump in. The ICE agents that you command have been demonized as Gestapo, and they're kicking in doors and dragging people out, and their kids are crying. You've heard it all. But what I want you to explain tonight is, what are the orders of the men and women who are on these raids? What are they supposed to do?
Well, they're enforcing immigration laws as enacted by Congress. They're upholding the oath they took to enforce those laws. They're not making this up. So when the people want to attack ICE for doing what they're doing, well, why don't you go scream at Congress? They wrote the law. I mean, ICE is just enforcing the law, but ICE is prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats, and the data proves it. I look at the data every morning on the way to work. I look at 22 pages of data, and the last time I looked at, a couple of days ago, when I actually looked at percentages, nearly 70% of everybody ICE arrests are public safety threats or national security threats.
What about the other 30? How do they get?
Many of them are national security threats. For instance, 3,000 Iranian nationals. Most national security threats don't have criminal histories. They're laying low to do the dirty deed. A lot of them are final orders. People who had due process at great taxpayer expense were ordered removed by a federal judge. Our job is to execute those orders and remove them. A lot of them are gang members. So if you look at the data, and as far as the question is, okay, how about the ones that aren't national security threats, not public safety threats, not national security threats, not gang members? Who are they? They're collateral arrests. Because when the sanctuary cities force us into the neighborhood to find a bad guy, because they won't give us access to the jail, so now we got to go to the neighborhood and find them. When we find that criminal, many times they're with others who are in the country legally. We're not walking away from them. We're going to enforce immigration law, unlike the last administration did.
So even if collateral people, they are subject to deportation, even if they don't have a criminal record?
Absolutely. If they're in the country legally, it's not okay. Bottom line is, it's a crime to enter the United States illegally, and we're not going to turn a blind eye to that.
Mr. Homan, thank you for being here.
If the message we want to send, Bill, is enter the country legally, it's a crime, but don't worry about it.
Well, that's what we had for in the past.
If that's the message we send, that enter the country legally, it's a crime, but don't worry about it. Unless you commit another crime, no one's looking for you, you're never going to fix this problem. People are continuing to put themselves in harm's way to come to the greatest nation on earth.
I got a couple of questions. First of all, good to see you, and thank you for being on my show on a couple of occasions. I really appreciate it. But I have to ask you, when you say, okay, you enter the country illegally, it's that cut and dry, is that consistent in your mind with what the president told America during the campaign and immediately after, that he was targeting criminals, not people who just entered illegally?
Like I just said, we are prioritizing criminal aliens, national security threats, and public safety threats. The data clearly proves it, 70%. Actually, the percentage of criminals we're arresting is higher than what the Biden administration did, even though they said they're going to concentrate on criminal aliens who are convicted of aggravated felonies. And that's just a stone cold fact. We still target criminals. They come first, worst first. But are others wrapped up? Certainly, especially in sanctuary cities where most collateral arrests occur.
I have an angle that I think is what is causing trouble on this issue and for you personally, but we're here for them. So let me get an audience question. Amy, what is your question for Mr. Homan?
Hi, Mr. Homan. I'm from Chicago. And while I do appreciate all the hard work that the ICE officers have been doing, taking the worst of the worst, it seems to become more aggressive recently, probably in the past 2 months. A couple days ago, there's a large train station down the street from my house, and there were ICE officers 5 o'clock in the morning. And that's not always affecting just them. It's affecting regular citizens, too. Delays, whatever. But I'm just curious why it's become so much more aggressive, and seems in Chicago mostly.
Well, a couple of things. If it's aggressive, I don't know if I use that term, but there's 1,000% increase on attacks on ICE officers. Have you seen the media lately? There's bounties on their heads for $50,000 to kill one of them. So they're very careful in the way they do these operations. They got to protect themselves. So I want to use the term aggressive. They're using a lot more precautions when they approach somebody. Second of all, if the mayor wants less ICE agents on the streets of Chicago, then let us in the jail to arrest a bad guy in the safety and security of a jail, where it's safer for Chicago residents, it's safer for the ICE agents, and it's safer for the alien. It doesn't make sense to release a public safety threat who's in the country legally back into the public. They like to say, well, we're a welcoming community. We want victims and witnesses of a crime who are illegally in the United States to feel free to come to the police without fear of working with ICE. That is a bunch of crap. Because victims and witnesses of a crime don't want the bad guy in the neighborhood either.
Amy's question, though, how common is it for the Chicago authorities to release dangerous migrants back into the population?
Every day.
How common?
Every day.
Do you have stats on it?
Certainly we do. We have a number of detainers we issued that weren't honored. If you look at the number of criminals we wrestled off the streets of Chicago, ICE has made Chicago safer. The governor and the mayor should be calling President Trump and thanking him for taking public safety threats off that street. It makes the street safer for Chicago residents like yourself. No one's going to argue taking a criminal off the street doesn't make the community safer. I looked at the data this morning. There's over, there's about, between ICE and CBP, there's over about 530,000 removals. At 70%, you're looking at about 330,000 criminals that were removed from this country, which makes this country safer.
Could you explain why, when it comes to ICE agents, there's been this whole big deal about concealing their identity? Law enforcement officials throughout this country don't get the license to do that. They have to walk up to you, they have to identify who they are, they have to make sure it's clear. An ICE agent getting to conceal their identity is not a privilege or a situation that other law enforcement officials have. Why should ICE agents have that?
Look, I don't particularly like the mask either, but name another law enforcement agency that's over 1,000% attacks on them. And name another law enforcement agency whose spouses and children have been doxxed on social media and been attacked and bullied in churches and schools. These men and women put a gun on their hip and wear a Kevlar vest to go on the streets every day, look for the worst of worst, makes this country safer. Them wearing a mask, if that protects them and protects their families, then that has to be done. No one, I remember the days some of these cities, if they weren't wearing a mask during COVID, you got reported to the police and got arrested for it. These men and women are trying to protect themselves and their families. And again, I don't like the mask. I wish there wasn't need for it. But there's not another law enforcement agency dealing with the attacks that ICE is dealing with right now. Look, immigration enforcement, I've been doing it since 1984. It's always been controversial. It's always been emotional. But people need to remember the men and women at ICE, they don't hang their heart on a hook when they go to work. They're mothers and fathers too. They have children too. And they take very, very emotional things home with them every day. I've done this for over 40 years. I stood in back of a trailer with 19 dead people who baked to death. I've talked to 9-year-old little girls that were raped multiple times by the cartels. And these men and women take that home every day. These are heroes and they're patriots, and I'm happy and I'm proud to support them.
But Mr. Homan, respectfully, I get where you're coming from. But one could retort by simply saying, when Obama was in office, he actually, and I said this to you when I interviewed you on my show, Obama deported more people than Trump did the first go round. But we didn't have this going on. So is it possible that the rhetoric of the president and the manner in which he chooses to verbalize his position on this issue may serve to antagonize the situation, and that is what is calling all of this, when you consider the fact that other president, you've acknowledged President Obama deported more people than President Trump before Biden went against Obama and decided to open borders. We didn't have these kind of issues until President Trump's second term. Even in his first term, it wasn't like this. So what level of culpability should the president and his administration have in regards to this?
Well, first of all, I think President Trump was elected to the White House, the #1 issue, enforcing immigration laws and securing the border.
I agree.
We have the most secure border in the history of the nation.
I understand.
Today. And when you have the secure border, less people are dying from fentanyl, less drugs are coming in, less sex trafficking of women and children, less known suspected terrorists are coming in.
Not debating that.
Cartels are making billions of dollars less. They're going bankrupt. Okay. Having a secure border not only saves lives, when you have, like right now, 96% less people are coming. When 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped by the cartels? How many children aren't dying? How many pounds of fentanyl aren't getting in? How many known suspect terrorists are getting in? A secure border saves lives. Not only that, a secure border gives us strong national security. You can't have strong national security.
But I'm not denying that. I'm saying I get where you're coming from. I totally agree with it. I'm just asking, what level of culpability should the administration have in terms of how it's perceived because of their verbiage and how they've served to talk about folks like this? That has exacerbated the situation. The numbers may be absolutely correct. You and I have talked about it, and I don't refute what you're saying. I'm simply talking about if he handled it a bit differently, maybe, just maybe, people would be conducting themselves.
I'll give you an analogy that I hear all the time, okay? Look, the masks, it's a bad look, all right? I understand the security problem with it, but it's a bad look. You make these men and women look like Hamas. and then you don't think people are going to react to them that way. Of course they are. They got their, it's like the stupid movie, Men in Masks Not Be Trusted. That's what you're setting them up for. I get the risk. Color of authority matters also. They should have a badge. You should be able to identify what they are. Nobody should have to guess that they're getting duped and they're not who they say they are. Everybody does it the same way. I get the sensitivity of the security. I'm with you. Two things that I think are getting stuck up. One, you talk about seeing data all the time. You guys do not put out data enough. Track is the best thing that they have, right? Syracuse University has this open FOIA request. I hear you on shows all the time, Tom. I do not think that you're FOS, okay? I've known you a long time. You can't say, I see the data all the time. Great, I don't. Put the data out, because track, you can look it up for yourself, TRAC, it's an acronym through Syracuse University. It's like 50-50. That takes me to the next point, which is you're not cutting fat, you're cutting muscle. And these communities need people who may have entered the wrong way but have done everything right since. And their kids are here, and they're productive.
But that's for
and
Congress.
Their employers need them. What?
That's for Congress to do. They got to read.
I'm not on. Listen, Tom and I have talked about this. You're an enforcement guy. I'm with you, and Tom makes the right point that they got to fix it. But enforcement priorities matter, okay? And I think that's part of it that you should address.
One big thing, both of you
Yes,
guys
Tom, go ahead.
And I'm going to throw it over to the director.
Oh, well, that's very nice of you.
I say this, but it has
deputized as you've been.
It has to be said. The surge of foreign nationals through the open border instituted by President Biden solely was about 15 million human beings. So, of course, there's going to be more pressure on a president incoming than Barack Obama. The most of Obama's deportations were at the border. But when Biden took over, he opened the border. Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
That's what I thought.
But get your answer, Chris. The bottom line is...
Thank you.
Bottom line is the data clearly shows that Trump is keeping his... Go to ice.gov and track...
It's like the last time they put it out was in like September.
But I can tell you, when I was ICE director, track used to put out a lot of information. You can take raw data and make any assumptions you want, unless you know what that data means.
Tom, I'm with you, but that's the burden.
But
be transparent and then have the fight.
I'm being transparent tonight. 70% of everybody arrested is a criminal. President Trump said we're going to concentrate on national security threats. That's exactly what we're doing. The data shows it. And like I said, for the hundreds of thousands of criminals that is going to be removed in this administration, it makes that country safe again, keeping President Trump's promise to American people what he was going to do. He said he's going to have the largest deportation operation in history. We're going to have the largest deportation operation in history. You look at numbers right now, I just told you, over 500,000 have been deported between CBP and ICE. And that's not counting the first 4 months of the fiscal year that were under Biden. We're not even counting those months. But if you extrapolate that in the monthly apprehension we got right now, you do have the biggest operation in the history of the nation. And one of the reasons people don't understand, why do we have the most secure border in the nation's history? Because President Trump's executive orders, his leadership on that, the men and women of the border who stand in that front line and catch and release. And third, because the whole world sees ICE out there every day across this nation enforcing the immigration law, sends a clear message of consequences so families don't spend their life savings handing it to a criminal cartel to make that dangerous journey because they know there's consequences. President Trump's policies, whether people want to face it or not, is saving lives by the thousands. Under Joe Biden, a record number of aliens died making that journey. A record number of Americans died from fentanyl coming across that border. This administration is not only enforcing law and making our streets safe again, they're saving thousands of lives.
Why do you think Governor Pritzker is so adamant against you and ICE? Why?
Because they hate Trump more than they love the residents of Chicago.
Is it that simple, though?
You tell me. I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
Did you ask?
I think any elected mayor, any elected governor, any elected city council person, their number one responsibility is the safety of their communities. So why would you not stand shoulder to shoulder with ICE to remove public safety threats?
Because you don't think that the people that they're arresting are the number one security interest in your community.
Well, I think they are.
I get your opinion, I get my opinion, but I also get that you don't make the policy. Bill is right about that. It hurts every time I say it. That Congress should make these priorities. Congress should give what your men and women have been asking for since I first met you 100 years ago, which is changes to the rules of what is asylum and how they can process and what their resources are. They won't do it because they love the problem, because it allows them to make everybody hate each other.
Well, they love the problem. They love the problem because it's also something they think they can campaign on. Let's not forget that.
Right. Campaign on the problem.
But I agree with Cuomo on this.
All right.
You need a better PR guy out there.
Yeah, hire Bill. Mr. Homan, thank you very much for being with us. I appreciate you. I want to let you get back to the job. I want to shake your hand, though, just so that I can walk in front of Bill. Thank you for being with us.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Homan, thank you very much.
Coming in.
All right. Now, look, also, this is how we do it, all right? You know, bruised egos, we don't have any time for it anymore. Homan's a straight guy. He's going to have the conversation. It's not always polite all the time, but these things matter. It's tearing our country apart. You got to have the real conversation. Now, somebody who's been mentoring me on this for a long time, I watched this man as governor of West Virginia. They had people in the Sago mine. There's word that they're alive. There were dozens down there stuck. The word was wrong. I won't say who gave the wrong word, but he's sitting right there. No, I won't say who got it wrong. I watched Joe Manchin cash in on the trust that he had with the people, that they would believe him in delivering that heartbreaking news. And I've watched him be that way all the way through the Senate, and I watched the price that he got, that he had to pay for it. So I invited Senator Joe Manchin to come tonight, former senator, to talk about the realities of why things don't get done. And he agreed to join us, and he comes out now. Senator Joe Manchin, West Virginia.
Hey, Stan, how are you?
Good to see you.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely.
I think the world of you, too.
Now, I asked Joe to do something else for me as a favor also, especially now that he's not in office. I asked him to stay the rest of the time, so that we could get his perspective on each of these different conversations because we're going to have members of Congress, okay? And they're going to be on different sides and talking to us about things that Joe lived. You heard Homan.
Yeah.
You heard Fetterman.
Yeah.
What do these men and women need to know about where the points of resistance are in getting anything done?
Well, in getting things done, John knows pretty well how the system should work, okay? He's been there, he came there as I was leaving. But the problem is nobody knows anybody. It's hard to say no to your friend. You want to work with them. You want to try to get to yes. It's easy to say no to somebody you don't know. Well, guess what? We come in on Monday. I'll give you an example of how the Senate, at least I can speak about that, but also the House too. They come in Monday night at 5:30 to make a vote. Monday night. Tuesday, Wednesday. By Thursday at 2 o'clock, they're all on an airplane going back home. No one hardly lives there anymore, so no one knows each other. You don't know who your wife's name or your spouse's name or your children's name, so you're not building relationships. They need to change the process, and people said, do you think it's going to change? It's not going to change as long as they have control of the rules. You know, and the senators aren't going to change it. They like what they're doing. It used to be people stayed there. There needs to be a living stipend. You got 70 people sleeping in their office on a rollaway bed, 70 Congress people. It doesn't work at all. And if you did that, and then also change the rules. When I first got there, they said, you know, you have to go over and make phone calls and raise money for your PAC. And you're expected to give to the other side, no matter who's running. So Republican, Democrat, Democrat, Republican. If your friend's up and they're on the other side of the aisle, whoever's running against them, you have to give them $5,000 out of your PAC for the primary, $5,000 out of the general. I said, where I come from, if you try to get me fired every time I go to work and then you want me to work with you on the way, I said, that's not going to work well. We're going to have a conversation. That's not going to be a fun time. So you've got to change the rules, how we should live with us civilly with each other.
Who has control of the rules?
The Senate, whoever's the majority, the senators. And they're not going to change it right now because all the power's been equated to four. They call them the four corners. You have the Speaker and the Minority Leader in the House, okay? Hakeem Jeffries. Then you have John Thune, Majority Leader, and you have Chuck Schumer. Those four offices kind of run everything.
Say you were the dictator of the Senate.
Okay.
All right, you're in charge.
I like to do that.
No one can defy.
Right.
How do you solve the shutdown?
Well, the shutdown should never happen.
I know, but
okay,
how do you solve it?
if I was a dictator and I had an office, let's say the Roosevelt Room in the White House, I'd bring him over there, I'd lock him in there, I'd feed him breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and have a cot for him to sleep in, because they're not leaving until they fix it.
But what would you, what's the solution to fix it?
The solution to fixing it right now, this is the easiest lift I've ever seen in the Senate. Of all the challenges we've had, fixing this right now. First of all, you have a broken healthcare system. The reason we have the Affordable Care Act was we have people working on the low end of the totem pole, making 30, 35, 40, 45,000, right above poverty levels. The only health care they had, because if they were working for a company, they couldn't afford to pay the copay. They said, we can't afford it. You know what they used? The emergency room. You know what else they would use? If they had a sickness, they would go back into work and claim a workers' comp. So at the highest price, they were using the facilities. That's what drove all the cost up so high. So we were able to do that, and also people with pre-existing conditions couldn't even buy it. If you could find it, you couldn't afford it. So that stopped that. Well, guess what? Someone's got to pay for that. So you have people up to 100, 150% of the poverty guidelines. Then the Democrats wanted to go further. They want to keep expanding it. That means the cost is going to fall on the taxpayers, general, the revenue treasurer. So then it went to 400% with COVID. They're trying to bring it back. It's hard to bring something back when you've given it, because the people that were in the 200,000 income, 300,000, it was still a big chunk out of them what they had to pay.
Especially if you're going to give a tax cut.
They were given to, okay, yeah, you got that right too. Well, we'll go into that. But anyway, so they got to that point there, Chris, and someone says, okay, we got to ratchet that back. We're going to go back to pre-COVID. Well, you're not going to go back to pre-COVID overnight. So all they do is have an extension. They have good ideas on both. Democrats, Republicans are talking in private. Go 1 year, get back and say, guys, we're going to basically freeze it at 1 year. And then by 1 year, we're going to roll back to 200% of poverty guidelines and then try to get back to the other.
Joe, you can't give all the answers when you just first came out here. I got a whole show I have to fill. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have Senator Joe Manchin with Bill O'Reilly and Stephen A. Smith. We will have Ro Khanna. We will have Madeline Dean, key Democrats in this process, and we will have Jim Jordan. It does not get more key on the right than him, and we'll all have a discussion. It will be spicy. Stay with News Nation. Thank you for joining us here at the Kennedy Center for the News Nation Town Hall. The country is at a crossroads. Bill O'Reilly calls it a change moment. We have things that we have to talk about, and you cannot do it with one side. Conversation has to be part of the cure. Stephen A. Smith, Bill O'Reilly, former Senator Joe Manchin, who I asked as a special favor to come and kind of be a fair broker for us throughout the night of what he's hearing. Republican Jim Jordan, Ohio. Very good to have you, sir. With you. Ro Khanna, Democrat, California. Very good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
And Madeline Dean, Democrat, Pennsylvania. We had Senator John Fetterman. It is good to have his companion in the House here with us. Thank you very much for dealing with us. I was saying I have a sister, Madeline. This is Madeline, okay? I say it wrong, she comes at me here. I say it wrong, then my sister comes at me there. So it is good to have each and all. Let me just start with this, and then I'll let the gentleman take it away. Mr. Jordan, I know that this nominally sits in the Senate, but really, this is about what was ignored in what used to be called the Big Beautiful Bill. Now you're calling it like the Working Families Tax Cut Bill, whatever you want to call it. This is about the House addressing health care. Do you believe that is going to happen anytime soon?
The shutdown, actually? No, I think Chuck Schumer's in certainly past Saturday. They got this crazy left wing. You're the one who said the rational left a little bit earlier. You had to make this distinction. The crazy left's having this rally in town. So I don't think anytime this week. We'll see what happens next week. Some members are now talking about, some Democrat members I talked to today in the gym actually, talking about November 1st. But we're having a government shutdown over a policy concern that doesn't take effect until next year. So open up the government. Don't jeopardize the troops' pay. And let's have the debate. But this idea that we're going to keep extending, I heard the senator talking about the Obamacare. I mean, remember, everything they told us about Obamacare turned out to be wrong. Everything, like your plan, keep your plan. Like your doctor, keep your doctor. Neither of those. Premiums are going to go down. President Obama said premiums will go down on average $1,500. Well, if that's the case, why'd they have to do this subsidy, expand it, extend it, and now they're trying to extend it a second time. So
that's because it needs tweaks that you guys would never do because you campaigned on destroying it.
When you have something that doesn't work, I think you have a discussion.
But you got to fix it.
Well, you got to fix health care. You don't have to fix that.
But you never tried to fix it. You tried to say, let's get rid of it.
I'm for medical savings accounts, health savings accounts, more deductible, high deductible plans that will lower the cost and get the kind of plans a lot of families want. They're looking for, if their son or daughter has some major illness, they want coverage for that. But those are the kind of things that I think make sense, empower families, empower people, and actually would bring down costs, bring down premiums.
Silence.
No, I'd like to say one thing to Jim on that. You have the trifecta now. You have the president, Republican, you have the House, and you have the Senate. Yeah. The House works on simple majority. 218 votes, you can do what you want to do. The Senate's always been designed that the minority always had a voice. They had a vote and a voice. Yep. And with that, so whenever they give us something from the House, it comes in hot. And we expect that, whether the Democrats are in control or Republicans. And then the Senate's got to kind of, as George Washington said, get a saucer and cool off that hot tea so we can drink it. So this is where we are right now. I remember our good friend John McCain. When John McCain was sitting in the back before he went out and voted, historically in 2017, he went like this. John and I sat back, I came by and I said, John, I said, you know what? I'm not crazy about this Affordable Care Act right now either, but I don't have anything else to vote for. And he says, we got nothing, Joe. And he went out and boom. Now I'm saying, you can make something happen. You got the trifecta.
Yeah.
Put some changes in that, put something on the table, set them down and let them make them vote.
Open up the government and let's have the debate. That's how it works. But right now, Chuck Schumer, the only debate that's going on is Chuck Schumer with himself. Yeah. Because he voted for this 6 months ago. Yeah. Now he won't vote for the very same thing. And oh, by the way, talk about compromise in the House. We passed a bill that funds the government at the level the Democrats wanted. And now they're, oh, it's not good enough because we got to shut down the government to get some policy issue that doesn't take effect.
Is that true, Representative?
No. And let's be really honest here. I am a Democrat. I am a reasonable Democrat. And we know a couple of things to be true. Republicans have not been in town for weeks. It is stunning to me that, I'm glad you're here, Jim, but most of your colleagues are home or on vacation.
I was here last week. I'm here this week.
The Speaker told them all to stay home. Remember, the Speaker sent everybody home during Epstein, before the deadline for shutdown. And then the week of the shutdown, can you imagine if we ran a company like this? The week of the shutdown, he told his colleagues, stay home. We're done here. And then we had the shutdown. Last week, told them to stay home. This week, told them to stay home. Democrats are here. We want the government open. You have a responsibility to govern. You do have the trifecta. You're failing to govern, and the American people get that this is about health care. You don't have a replacement. You've tried for a dozen years to repeal and replace. In your district, do you know how many people will either lose health care?
If it was so good, why did you have to subsidize it, expand the subsidy, and now want to extend and expand it again? If it was such a good thing, why did everything you tell us turn out to be false? If it was such a good deal.
Talk to your constituents. More than 50,000 of your constituents. I'm talking to you about the facts. That's exactly the problem here, are the facts. More than 50,000 of your constituents will either lose health care or their premiums will be increased dramatically. 50,000 in a single congressional district.
Let me bring Ro Khanna in, Jim, but let's do it through the audience and get a question, Ro, and then I'll direct it to Ro Khanna. Sir, give us your name, Jack. Well, I just did that for you. Tell us where you're from and what's your question for Ro Khanna.
Hello, my name is Jack Chris, and I'm from Dallas, Texas, and I'm an air traffic controller for the Federal Aviation Administration. Thank you. Been there 16 years. I've also been through the Obama shutdown and also the Trump shutdown in the previous. And my question is, under the current political climate, do you think that this shutdown could actually be longer than the previous shutdowns due to the external pressures, political pressures that we're having effect right now? Because I am actually driving DoorDash when I get off work just to kind of make sure I can pay for my daughter's tuition.
Well, Jack, first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for making it clear this is not a game.
No, it's not.
There are people like you who aren't going to get paid, aren't getting paid.
True.
There are troops. I was talking to the mom of someone who served in the Army, and she didn't know until the president figured out how to jigger the funds, whether she was going to be able to pay for her kids' groceries. So one of the things I think Senator Manchin said that I agree with is, why is it that every member of Congress and senator isn't locked into the Capitol complex until we get a deal?
Right.
Why is it when in the other previous shutdowns, I used to have my phone on and we used to get a text for voting on something. This speaker, and I like this, I came in with the speaker. He's a man of faith, but he's literally shut down the Congress. And he's shut down the Congress because he doesn't want to swear Adelita Grijalva in because they don't want to vote on the release of the Epstein files. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Now, Jim, is that true?
No.
Then why won't he swear her in?
Well, typically the swearing-ins I've been a part of is when the full Congress is there. They're there with their family, and they get to make a speech, their maiden speech or first speech when they're sworn as a new member. That's the only ones I've been there for. There have been a few times where new members were sworn in what's called a pro forma session, but this
Two from Florida.
This is about Chuck Schumer not voting for what he voted for.
Can we go back to Jack?
The facts are so basic. He said I was for it. Now he won't vote for it.
All right, I got you, Madeline.
I want to go back to Jack. Thank you for your work. I talked to regional air traffic controllers. I'm from the Philadelphia region, and we also have Reading Regional. We have some other regional airports. I talked to an air traffic controller. I have been to the tower. You guys are so dedicated. You work long hours, high stress, and I know with this shutdown, some of your support staff have been furloughed because they're non-essential. We are asking the world of you, and you keep the skies safe. Is it possible? Yes. Is it possible that this goes longer? I came in 19. I was sworn in the longest shutdown in government history under Trump administration 1. 35 days. I met with air traffic controllers. They were doing garage sales to make sure, selling stuff out of their houses to make sure they could feed their families. It is absolutely irresponsible. Why are the Republicans not here negotiating?
Well, Jim, you know why no one believes that? Jim's a great debater, by the way, you know, and I always am concerned when he comes into the committees. But you know why no one believes this Chuck Schumer thing? The country thinks he's too ineffective to actually be shutting things down. Does anyone believe that the Democrats actually are like running things? You got Donald Trump, you got the Republicans in charge, the Republicans in the Senate, and so this argument that the Democrats are blocking things is just not believable.
Did you hear what the senator said? To get something passed in the Senate, you need 60 votes. The first guest on Chris's show was one of those Democrat senators who voted with Republican, but they need 5 more to get there. So you got to understand basic civics, how the Congress works. You got to get 60 votes.
You
to pass
can do
something.
this.
So
you can do it.
You can try to blame. You can try to say Chuck Schumer doesn't know what he's doing. But that's not how it works.
We should have a real thing. Look, why is it that in this country you can do with 51 votes, you can pass the president's appointees? You can confirm judges. You can have the budget reconciliation.
Chris,
you can have the budget reconciliation to give tax breaks. But we can't. We can't.
For getting rid of the filibuster.
We can't do a 50. I'm for getting 51 votes
because he's not
to keep the government open.
Right.
It's because he's not in the Senate. If he was in the Senate, he wouldn't say it.
Whoa. On this, you get rid of the filibuster, you lose the holy grail of democracy.
I didn't say I was for it.
I know that. I disagree on that. You can't get rid of it.
I'll tell you one thing before you leave, Jack.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack, let me say one thing. Can I say one thing?
Senator wants to talk to you, but Jack, let me tell you something. He is emblematic of who wins the midterms. If whoever wins the vote of the man who has to drive DoorDash because of what Congress put him in as a position is going to win the midterms. Yeah. Whoever he feels can get him out of a situation. Now, we all know makes you want to cry that he has to do that when he's doing something that keeps us alive. That's what's going to be what wins the midterms. I'll tell you that.
Jack, I'll say one thing to you. A person came to me the other day and he says, listen, if the greatest country on earth, the United States of America, can get Hamas and the Israelis in the same room, make a deal, we sure as heck can get the Democrats and Republicans in a room and make a deal.
So there's a lot of politics in play here because the Republicans feel that they're gaining, and CNN actually the other night had a poll that showed most Americans are blaming Democrats for the shutdown. That could change, okay? So when the Republicans see that, the urgency of this drops because the midterms loom. But I want to ask the three Democrats here. This is what I think is underlying. I don't know if you saw the Oregon Treasury report.
2.5. 2.5.
2.5. Well, we got 1.5 Republicans and 2.5 Democrats. We're good.
Let's make a deal.
Oregon releases a budget, and in the budget, it shows the state of Oregon is spending $1.5 billion for the years 25, 26, 7 to give free health care to undocumented migrants. In the same budget, the state police get 50% less than that. There is a deep suspicion on the part of the Republican Party that the health care system is being gamed. It's a con, okay? And that all of this money going into Obamacare is being used by the blue states to do things they're not supposed to do.
Madeline, is this a shell game?
Wait. Here's the question.
That's not the law, and that is not true.
But the stats are the stats. Oregon said, we are going to spend $1.5 billion to give health care.
We're the federal government. The federal government does not allow that.
Democrats have said there's no money going, and that's not true. So,
you know where the money goes?
2.5 Democrats.
Emergency care.
Congresswoman.
And let her answer the question.
It's a Ronald Reagan bill. Health care for those who come into our emergency room that they don't die.
It's not emergency rooms.
Triaged.
It's not emergency rooms.
You're talking about
Oregon. These are subsidies
the federal government.
In the state of Oregon. So, I believe, and remember, people believe what they want to believe, I believe that the goal of the Democratic Party is to have socialized medicine in this country, one payer. And right now on CNN, you have a communist town hall with AOC and Bernie Sanders. And
I thought I was going to that town hall.
We'll kick their
I really thought I was. Chris, what happened?
So my question is, to you,
this is where right and left come to be reasonable.
Okay. Is he still here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill, wait.
Here's my question.
I said you had mellowed down since the Fox days.
You want a one-payer government-run health care?
Great question.
Yes or no?
You know what I want?
Yes, I do want Medicare for all. You know who else?
Want it.
You know who else
I
wants
want
it? Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Okay, that's
Marjorie
great.
Taylor Greene is talking about insurance not working.
You want a Congress?
No, I want two things. I want an actual budget. I am newly an appropriator.
You're drifting.
No, I'm not drifting. I'm telling people what they need to know.
You want socialized
Appropriators are supposed to put forward bills, have them pass, go over to the Senate, reconcile where you can.
This is a dodge. Come on.
It's not a dodge at all. I want everybody in America to have health care.
Okay.
You know what, Martin?
The only way that happens is a one-payer Canadian system.
Let me just.
The only way it happens.
Bill, you know
one of my favorite Martin Luther King quotes is the greatest injustice, the greatest inequity, is injustice in health.
Okay, health care is a human right. That's fine.
Then you must be for single payer or health care for all.
The half Democrat right here. Do you want
Bill, did that mean
socialized medicine?
No, I don't. But I do want to revamp the medical system that we have it now because people don't know what they're paying for. They don't know what they're getting.
Okay, but you don't want the government controlling.
We can fix that, right. The government basically has to offer.
So it's two
has to be
against
compassion.
one.
Bill, you know Donald Trump in his book?
I don't know him.
He called for, read his book. He says we should have the Canadian single-payer system before he became president.
Is that before or after we take over Canada?
That's a fair point. I don't know. Maybe that's his plan.
Yes.
Maybe that's his plan. But look, Marjorie Taylor Greene and a lot of Republicans, they're saying this is broken. You had $71 billion of profit by insurance companies. Ordinary Americans' premiums are doubling. They're still paying deductibles, and they're saying this is a deadweight cost on our country.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying this is the divide. This is why the stuff doesn't get done.
But you throw the word socialized in there.
All right.
Because it's a poison pill. No, even Canadian. See, this is all code. This is
not
all
code. That's what they pay.
It's code. It's code. If she says yes, I want socialized, all over TikTok. You know, they're socialists, and that's why nothing gets done because it's not about the practicality of the purpose. It's just about name calling and which side is worse. Stephen, are you going to say something?
I just want to say.
There it is.
I'm trying to be very respectful to everybody because they deserve it.
Why?
But let me say that. No, because you deserve it. But let me say this. I don't think Washington understands how ticked off we truly are. Think about the conversation that we're having right now. You brought up the single-payer system, emulating Canada. You know, we're looking at a president that just gave $20 billion to Argentina. We're hearing about or witnessing what I consider to be a retribution tour. And even though to some degree I don't blame him because of how people went after him, still it appears to be counterproductive. We're listening to this kind of stuff while a young man walked up to the microphone and said that he had to leave here to go and work on DoorDash to help pay for his daughter's tuition. Meanwhile, everybody up here getting paid. But he ain't. This is this kind of stuff right here. That's how you know, and I'm not accusing any of you directly or personally of feeling this way. I'm just talking about the apparatus that is Washington, the nation's capital. This is why you have so many Americans, excuse my language, so pissed off at Washington, because somehow, some way, you get to have these conversations, engage in specific elements of it to talk about what we need to do to get things better. Our debt is $37.8 trillion. Somehow, some way, the taxpayer's been paying this, been throwing money, because we all look at our check, and it's been going to the government. And somehow, some way, you're supposed to be doing something constructive and productive enough to make sure that we don't have that kind of deficit. It isn't happening. A government shutdown is going on right now. A man has to work on DoorDash when he's really an air traffic controller that we applauded. And we're up here talking about how much some money is going to cost, and the only person that don't have a check coming is him. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a break.
All right. We'll go to the audience. It's good. I wanted to sit down. So, tell us your name and tell us what the question is.
Sandy Monachino. I'm from Binghamton, New York. I'm going to pivot a little bit, change the subject. The recent indictments of Comey and Letitia James and soon to be imminent Bolton. Do you think, and this is to the panel in general, do you think that it's going to have a positive effect for Trump or a negative effect for Trump? You think it's going to help him or hurt him politically?
Jim.
Yeah, it's not about who it helps or who it hurts politically. It's about applying the facts to the law, and when people have done wrong, they get indicted, they get prosecuted. I think it's just that simple. Whether you look at Comey, whether it's Letitia James or maybe Bolton, we'll see. But I think there are others who have maybe in the same category. I think John Brennan may not have been square with Congress when he testified. Certainly some questions I asked him in a deposition last Congress relative to a different issue, but we got into some of the things that have been brought forth here recently. What I do know is Jim Comey is where it all started. 10 years ago, Jim Comey took a dossier, a document paid for by the other party's campaign through Perkins Coie law firm, through Fusion GPS, to a foreigner, Christopher Steele, who put together this garbage document. He took that to the secret court, the FISA court, to get a warrant to spy on the other party's campaign. You're not supposed to do that in America. That is not a good thing. He did it. And then, after Trump wins the election, in spite of all that, they changed the intelligence community assessment. ODNI Director Gabbard just gave us that. That is all factual. That is all
Jim, I'm not disagreeing with your analysis. I'm not a particular fan of what Comey did, but that's not applying the facts to the law. That's not what he's charged with.
I'm talking about Jim Comey. I understand.
But you're saying you're pissed at Jim for what he did politically, and now you want to prosecute him.
No, that's not the question. The question from the gentleman is it going to hurt Trump? And it's not going to hurt Trump because the MAGA people hate these people.
All right, but that's not justice. Madeline, what's your take on it? That's not fairness in the law. Madeline, go ahead.
If you don't mind, what I want to say is, I thank you for that question. I care a little bit more about will it hurt the American people and our system of justice, the independence of our system of justice, the Department of Justice. I had the honor of serving on the Judiciary Committee with Mr. Jordan, now Chairman Jordan, for 2 or 3 terms. And if this same setting had happened with Biden as president, the howling that would have been going on about the failure of independence, for the president to be tweeting who he wants indicted, who he wants investigated, We have a failure of independence. So will it help Mr. Trump in his popularity? I don't know. But I think it is very gravely harmful to an independent Department of Justice.
We've got to stop the lawfare in this country. Both parties. I agree. Both parties. You know, when we take back power, Jim, we're not going to prosecute you if you don't do anything. If you don't do anything terrible. And if you get in power, you shouldn't be prosecuting Democrats. This is what they do in third world countries, to criminalize politics. And we've got to get past this, and we've got to try to figure out how are we going to move forward? How are we going to actually remain the preeminent country? How are we going to heal some of the divides?
I would just say the rule of law is what we all, so different than any place else in the world. What we have. We believe in the rule of law. Madam Justice is supposed to be blind. If you look on every courthouse, you'll see her blind. Now it's peekaboo madam now, okay? Looking to see if she has the right person that's going to be trying her. That can't happen. We have to have faith in it.
You think it's okay? You think it's okay for the Justice Department to spy on 8 members of the United States Senate?
Not at all.
You think it's okay for the Justice Department to take the phone of a sitting member of Congress? I mean, that's what we were dealing with in the last. You talk about lawfare and the weaponization of the justice system. That's what happened. We sent a letter today to Jack Smith because 2 of his lieutenants who were part of the special counsel investigation wouldn't answer our questions when we brought them in and deposed them. 70-some times, each of them exercised their Fifth Amendment liberties. One of the questions was, how many other members of Congress did you spy on? I exercised my Fifth Amendment right. I'm not going to answer the question.
Jim, I think
that was one of the questions. Was it political when you went after Trump? I'm going to exercise my Fifth Amendment right. Why wouldn't they answer? They answered a bunch of questions, but 70-some times they did it, and those were the type of questions they wouldn't answer. And now if we look into that, somehow it's a weaponization of government? No way.
Looking into it's fine, but getting the court system and changing the court system until you have the right person that'll get the verdict that you want is not the right way to do it.
Well,
if all those things
that's fair. Shame to prosecute. This is the truth. Hello, the truth. Trump wanted to get those people. That's the truth. Yeah. He wanted to get them. Now, what you guys have to decide is whether that's revenge or retribution. Retribution is righteous. Revenge is not. I agree with Mr. Jordan here. Comey is as corrupt as J. Edgar Hoover. And you read my book, Killing the Mob, you'll see how corrupt J. Edgar Hoover was, okay? Comey was off the chart. So if I'm president and Comey has cost my family $150 million, I'm going to get that SOB. And I got grounds to get him.
But that's not what, the last part. The last part, no, listen, as a lawyer, justice is all about nuance, okay? And the idea that, and again, I'm just telling you, if we were in a court of law right now, Madeline Dean and Ro Khanna are both much better lawyers than I've ever attempted to be. But I'll tell you this, none of this would be allowed in. And I'll tell you why, because it is irrelevant to the charges at hand. You charged him with lying about something in front of Congress. Yep. Either you have the facts that can prove it or you don't. And what is behind why you want to do it is why people hate all of us. Let me ask you a question. Do you have a question for them? Good.
I have a question for the entire...
Good. Is it about something different?
It is.
Even better.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What is your name and where are you from?
My name's Isaac Dellinger. I'm a student at the Catholic University of America here in the district.
Right.
My question's about the National Guard. There's data that shows that violence is actually increased when you bring in the military instead of law enforcement. And so I want to know what you guys think about Trump's decision to do that in our cities and what the American people should know about that decision.
Let me just say, as a former governor, the 10th Amendment is really something sacred to all of us as governors or former governors. That's our state's rights. We have the right to basically govern ourselves. If the President of the United States calls me and says we have a national emergency, I'll give you a perfect example, Katrina. When Katrina hit down, he called us all. He called me up and asked me. I said, absolutely. So we sent C-130s down, troops down, communication for Louisiana. That, you know what, who pays? The federal government pays me, reimburses me for sending my troops because they're on my payroll, state payroll. I don't know what happened here. I don't know. The president hasn't determined it. If he'd have called me and said he had an emergency, I would have answered it. But if I didn't get that call, I wouldn't have been volunteered. That's all I can say. But I can say this about crime. I want to live in a crime-free neighborhood, a crime-free state. Okay, and if we're not doing the job, here's the question that should be asked. If you're coming to my state, I need you to help me, Mr. President, come to my state, thank you. Comes in there, brings the guard in, we clean up the area. They leave me in 30 days, we go back to the same. Where's my resources? How can I maintain this? Can you help me? The questions aren't being asked. The right questions aren't being asked. Mr. President, once you come and help me, what are you going to leave me with? Can you help me then? And I'll cut the budgets back to where it's almost impossible to maintain that type of service.
The question was, did it work? Definitely worked here in D.C. 6-week time frame, carjackings went down 86%. Definitely worked here in D.C. Absolutely. Other areas, the president, I think, does have the prerogative, this is Justice Department opinion, has the prerogative because the three-part test is an or test, and the last element says if there's an imminent threat to federal law enforcement or there's a hindrance of them doing their job, which is happening in so many cities to ICE agents, or there's a threat to the facilities like ICE facilities in those districts or in those cities, then the president can send a National Guard, and that's what he's doing. So I think it definitely worked in this city. We all know that. We've seen the stats. And frankly, people have been out in the city walking to restaurants. It was just a safer when the Guard was there. So,
Jim, if bringing in the National Guard is what lowers crime.
He's not mobilizing his guards at the state. I don't think the states have basically, Illinois has been mobilized. Their Guard has been outside.
That's right. It's outside guards. But can you point to...
That question being ironed out.
But, Jim, you've been doing this a long time, okay? Have you ever heard that a way to lower crime anywhere is by bringing in the military? Have you ever heard that offered up as a suggestion anywhere at any time, except in Venezuela?
This is just common sense. If you have more law enforcement, you
law enforcement is not a guy in a basic dress uniform who is trained to kill.
Well,
okay, that's a different thing.
So the justification has to be there for cities outside of the district. The district's a different entity. It's a special entity. Right. The district, the president can bring in the National Guard like he did. Crime went down. Those are facts. When you're looking at Chicago or Portland or some other city, then there has to be a reason that fits the law. And the reason is when there's a threat and a hindrance to law enforcement, federal law enforcement, exercising federal law and enforcing federal law. And that's the justification that the president's using. That's straight from the Justice Department, legal opinion, Office of Legal Counsel. That's their opinion, and that's why he's able to do it in those places.
Just so you know, Madeleine, it is two separate issues, right? One is, how do we fight crime? The political mistake for Democrats was saying no, as if you therefore are saying you don't have a crime problem, you don't want any help. It was a bad look. The right answer should have been, yes, I want your help, Mr. President, but how? I don't want National Guard from another state. I want the DEA. I want Vice. I want whatever I need for a gang task force for Chicago or wherever. They didn't make that nuanced change. They took a loss on it. But this second issue of federal assets, it's a separate issue. Mine is the crime point. Madeleine, do you want to talk about crime?
On crime. Crime was down in D.C., and I like your approach, which should have been, I want to get crime down even more. How can I help you, D.C.? How can I help you, mayor and council? What actually works? Temporarily having National Guard in is not the answer. In my city of Philadelphia, crime is down 40-some%. The president's threatening to send National Guard to us. We know that it is a misuse of our National Guard, of our military, to have them doing law enforcement operations on our streets. And for our student, I think of that student at Catholic University. It doesn't feel good that you have military on your streets, walking around with heavy armament, and obviously they're in just particular areas. It's somewhat for show. I wish that the president would say, I want to help you in all of your cities, Philadelphia, everywhere. One of the things that I had during appropriations was a reinstatement of $100 million, which are grants for violence interruption. We know that those grants, they're based right in the communities. We know those grants work to reduce gun violence, violent crime, and not one Republican would vote for it. They don't want to reduce crime in that way. And the president is doing this for, I think, a most uncomfortable, most un-American show.
Let me share this. If I had to guess which guest I would have walk off tonight, I would have never guessed it would have been Stephen A. Smith. I want you to know that. It was not my guess. But I respect the point that he made. I respect even more that he came back. I want to thank each of you for making the case to this audience and to all the American families at home about where it is. So they see at a minimum. They may like, they may not like, but they hear you talking about what matters to them. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Chris.
Representative Dean, thank you. Representative Khanna, Representative Jones, thank you very much. Jim Jordan, thank you. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, hopefully we'll all still be here. We all talk about how digital media matters so much. One of the biggest podcasts on the left one of the biggest digital presence on the right. They're both here. Andrew Colvett from Turning Point USA and Adam Mockler will be here to talk about how social media is leading the way. Stay with News Nation.
The News Nation Town Hall is brought to you by Sling. Choose and customize your channel lineup or pause and watch for free. Sling lets you do that. Base package required.
All right, thank you so much for joining us in what has really been a special night here for News Nation, and I hope for all of you here and at home at the Kennedy Center. We have been discussing with players what's happening in this country, and it has gotten hot, but I think it's been constructive, and it shows why conversation has to be part of the cure. It cannot be just one side talking about why the other is worse. Nothing gets better that way. So one of the things that we were talking about tonight is social media as a dominant force in our democracy, right? I would argue probably the dominating force. So how do we show balance in that and where we're headed? Good question, better answer. Adam Mockler is part of the vanguard of podcasts on the left. He works with Midas Touch. He has his own standalone, millions and millions of followers. He is one of the most listened to people on the left. Next to him is Andrew Colvett. He is part of Turning Point USA. He was the executive producer for Charlie Kirk, a very close friend of Charlie Kirk's, and he is carrying forward their sense of purpose on the podcast and with the organization. And I thank you both for being with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Andrew, let me start with you. We have met relatively recently. I was with Charlie on Patrick Bet-David's podcast for hours. We talked, we texted. It was fruitful, disagreed a lot. How we disagreed mattered. What have you learned, positive and negative, in the aftermath of his assassination?
Yeah, and by the way, Chris, he said really nice things about you in private, and that's why when we had a chance to get together, you know, after all of this happened, I was more than happy to connect, and I'm glad we did. What I've learned is that there is a really, really vile undercurrent of political violence. And, you know, we talked about this briefly, but it's actually emanating from the political left. There was a YouGov economist poll that came out, I believe, it was between September 12th and the 15th. So the poll started 2 days after the assassination of Charlie. And what they found was about 30% of self-described liberals between the ages of 18 and 39 believed that political violence was justifiable to advance political ends. 30%. Meanwhile, conservatives of that same age group were among the most peaceful. So you see this diversion that's happening. Conservatives are getting more peaceful. Young conservatives were more likely to answer no, political violence is not acceptable than their older counterparts. However, it was completely inverted, and there's one node on that graph that stands out like a sore thumb, and that's young progressives. So what I've learned is that there is a really sick thing happening somewhere in our culture, and we could debate where it starts from, but it is there, because when you saw what happened to Charlie, a father, a husband, a wonderful, wonderful person that I can attest in the privacy of I assume we're going to get to these leaked text messages. I will tell you, Charlie Kirk in private was more extraordinary than he was in public. He was more kind, he was more generous, he was more gracious, he was more loyal. Truly, truly a man who lived his faith even in the quiet and in the private parts of his life. And yet there was people that were giddy. And that is disgusting. Now, I will tell you, I believe it was a small minority. I think it was a small minority, and it was so disgusting that we made a lot of noise about it. Okay, so it became a much bigger story. I believe that the American people are good, generous people. I think we're decent people in this country. But the fact that there was even that many people that felt emboldened to say something or to jump on his grave or to be giddy at something that vile and gross is a disgrace, and it's a black eye on our country.
Now, Adam and I talked about this, and I found you very eloquent on this, on the line that had to be drawn. There was no yeah but for you when it came to Charlie Kirk's assassination. People should not get killed for what they believe in and expressing ideas in America. And you see it differently in terms of, yes, there is violence, increasingly so in our politics. Why do you think it is, and do you believe it is disproportionately coming from young progressives?
Well, Andrew pointed out an undercurrent of political violence, but there is a deeper undercurrent here of political radicalization of young people, primarily young men. So the same time that Charlie Kirk was tragically shot, another young white dude shot up Evergreen High School in Colorado, and this dude was a far-right neo-Nazi who had anti-Semitic messages online. I think that there's an undercurrent of radicalization that's stemming from a few things. As a 23-year-old, I lived through COVID during my most formative years, and I was able to rebound and have a social life, but a lot of young people didn't really get to rebound. Imagine having this bubble up around you during COVID, and you never really get to pull that bubble down, so you get sucked deeper and deeper down these algorithms online. Those algorithms are then, incentivized to push the most outrage, whether it's foreign bots like Russia and Iran trying to get people outraged, or domestic actors. I think Elon Musk's Twitter feed, for example, is disgusting and could radicalize a lot of young people. I disagree with the idea that violence disproportionately comes from young progressives. It is uniquely up this year, but if you look at any polls, according to CSIS, political violence overwhelmingly comes from the right. These mass shootings come from the right. And when it comes to the leaked text messages that came out 24 hours ago, I don't think it's fair to say there's an undercurrent just on the left. I know what you mean, but there's also an undercurrent on the right. There is something deep and dark boiling inside the GOP, and it's like the Nick Fuentes faction of the GOP. You can't deny that this is boiling when we got these leaked texts 24 hours ago. I do not like when people are characterizing these as kids in college. These were grown adults. Some of them were 32 years old. One of them was a state senator from Vermont. Today, we saw an Ohio aide with a swastika in the back. I would never claim that this is representative of an entire party, but I do think there's an undercurrent of radicalization on both sides.
Well, can I go ahead, Andrew, please put a point on it, and then we'll go to the audience.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, and I want to find agreement. Charlie, if you ever watch his debates really closely, he was a master at making that human connection with people. He would say, so we agree. Even if they were worlds apart, he would try and find a place where he would agree with the student or the professor often that would come debate him. So I agree with you that COVID had a profound effect on Gen Z. I did not live through that, and my heart goes out to Gen Z students that lost their proms and their graduations from that and lost their social lives. However, the study you just cited didn't include things like the Tesla attacks that were against Elon Musk and Tesla.
The study shows lethal deaths, lethal violence. Lethal violence comes disproportionately from the right. The Tesla attacks were not lethal. We can point to the Buffalo shooting, the El Paso supermarket.
I let you talk.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Wow. All right. So there's a whole bunch.
I tried to debunk my study, so.
Is it your study? Did you do it?
I did not do it, but keep
What is your point, sir?
My point is that time and time again, whether it's the Erin Burnett on CNN, God bless her, she tried to quote the same study. They didn't include a lot of what we would consider left-wing violence in that study, okay? First of all. Second of all, my dear friend was just killed by left-wing violence, assassinated in cold blood. There has been how many ICE facilities that have been targeted? And when you look at what's happening right now, I agree with you on the radicalization, but you have to be honest about the fact that you even admitted, well, this year it's progressives. Well, what about George Floyd? What about that whole summer of looting and rioting? Listen, there has been a trend of, I think, let's just say, let's be gracious and say, in the era of Trump, maybe it's a reaction to Trump. I'm open to those discussions, but there is a justification for political violence. It shows up in every poll, and it's coming from progressives.
I have spent all of my formative years watching the President of the United States talk about the opposition party like they shouldn't exist. His claim to fame in U.S. politics was saying that Obama wasn't born in America. That is how he entered the political stage. He was famous before that, but that was his claim to fame. He was the first presidential candidate to ever chant "lock her up" on a political stage. He tried to coup our government. And I live in this, let me finish. Listen. I live in the city of Chicago. Donald Trump, over the past 2 months, has not only posted an AI video of Obama being arrested, but then after that, he posted an AI image of Chicago being invaded. After that, he sent the National Guard to Chicago. So I've spent my formative years watching the president do this. And just think about this. We saw these Nazi group chats, which I'm sure you condemn, right? This Nazi group chat.
Well, we can talk about it.
Do you condemn it?
I want to talk about it.
Wait, so when they said gas chambers,
disavow.
When they say gas chambers, you won't. So you're like J.D. Vance. You just won't condemn this?
Well, I actually had J.D. on the show today. We had a whole conversation.
You guys can all condemn this, right?
Hell yes.
Thank you.
Hold on.
All right.
Hold on.
But
Chris, can you condemn that?
Here's the point, of course. But that's easy. What I'm
for him, but you know what? This is not constructive, right?
Because what the constructive part is not. This is what. Look, what's happening here, and I know both of you guys, and I want to bring Joe in on this, and I want to get to the audience. But let's just be clear about where the path is forward. The comparison of which is worse is killing us. Okay, it's killing everybody. And you are not wrong about your points in point counterpoint. But as we started with the premise about Charlie, it's either wrong or it isn't. If violence is wrong in politics, then you do everything you can to get on the other side of it. Are you right about Trump and his histrionics? Of course you are. Is Andrew right about what he and Charlie Kirk have dealt with all over the country? Yeah, they're right. So the conversation is not which one of you is worse. I have no interest in that. It's how do we get to better? Joe, what's your take?
Let me say a couple of things. Those of us from a different generation, there was always civility in it. You might disagree and you might want to say things, but you didn't do it. There was just civility. You were expected to hold yourself at a higher level. We've lost that as a society, and they're normalizing horrible behavior. What you're seeing is not normal. You don't teach your kids what we're saying on television today and what people are calling each other because one's a Democrat or one's a Republican. But let me tell you this. I grew up when you're entitled to your own opinion. You're just not entitled to create your own facts to support your crazy opinion. But today, on social media, you can find someone that'll agree with you. See, I told you I was right. Let me tell you the problem we have. Social media has a blank check of immunity. The social platforms, you can put anything you want on there, and they'll go ahead and let it go. And no one's held accountable. Section 230, you changed Section 230. And so 230 was a law that was put in 1996 to give the internet a chance to grow so it wouldn't be brought to court all the time. That day has gone. They have to be held responsible for what they allow anybody to put on their platform and held accountable.
Especially because they amplify things that drive outrage as opposed to understanding. But let me get in the audience. I have a feeling like you know more than any of us. So tell us who you are and what is your question?
Yes, I'm Luke. I'm originally from Amarillo, Texas. Go Cowboys, Stephen A.
He's going to leave again. Don't make him leave again.
That was hard.
Sorry, I had to.
That was hard.
But on the topic of Republicans, I'm the president of the American University College Republicans. In the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination, our club has faced a barrage of insults, attacks, and hostility. I'm just wondering, how can we as students engage with those who disagree and remain respectful while also remaining firm in our convictions? And that's for the whole panel.
Well, tell us a little bit more about these attacks.
We've had, when we tabled a few weeks ago for our club involvement fair, someone came up to us, spat at our table, said, "You're not welcome here, fascists."
Do you know who that person was?
It was just an American University student. And then after
did you complain about the person?
We did, yes, and nothing happened.
What happened?
Nothing happened yet, but we're so used to we held a Charlie Kirk vigil. Students came up to us after, said he deserved it, and this was celebrated. We have an anonymous chat board for our school.
How many students came up and say he deserved it?
Say that again?
How many students at American University came up to you and said he deserved it?
Well, we had two women that came up to us after, but we had hundreds of people posted on our anonymous chat board for our school.
All at American University?
Yes.
Hundreds of people were happy that Charlie Kirk was assassinated?
Yes.
Okay. What does the management, the dean, all of those people, what kind of a statement do they put out in the face of what you are saying?
They haven't addressed that. They let us hold our vigil, but that was pretty much it. They hadn't addressed.
So that's the problem now. That's the problem that Senator Manchin just said. There are no standards, and people are doing this. See, if somebody comes to me and spits at me, I pick up the phone and call my lawyer. All right? That's what happens. Because I'm going to defend myself.
Although it does make you wonder, if we were to go back to the old ways of where, I hate to quote him as a modern philosopher, but Mike Tyson said that the internet has made people forget that sometimes what comes out of your mouth can get you punched in the face.
But that doesn't lead to anything.
But I'll tell you what, I'm not saying that it does. But why? So there's your answer. The why did we stop that? Because it is not a productive solution to the problem. What we're doing and why Joe is so smart to be making this argument is, yes, the university should have done something about your situation to set a standard for conduct for its students, and there's an insinuation that the reason they didn't is because there's such a crazy orthodoxy on liberal thinking on campuses that is stifling speech and making people think things are okay that they shouldn't. We get it. The internet is that times a gazillion, because these guys have to deal with it every day. If Adam Mockler puts out content that is smart and sober-minded, which I hear all the time, does not go viral, does not become a hashtag, you have to say something that is incendiary. Andrew Colvett and his co-anchor and I had a conversation on the podcast the other day. It was very good. So you didn't hear about it. I talked to Benny Johnson. He gets upset because of what we're discussing about Charlie Kirk and the responsibility that I see on both sides for the dialogue. It goes crazy. Why? Because it was pitched as me trying to destroy Benny and him trying to destroy me. That is something that has to be controlled. The question is, how? Because you can't go back to the old ways, right? Of you're going to punch me because you don't like what I said, because we shouldn't punish the ideas that way, but we got to do something better than what we're doing now. Stephen A.
Well, Bill was right when he talked about there has to be consequences from your actions, and it has to emanate from the top. You got Senator Joe Manchin on here, who I have profound respect for. Why? Primarily because he's an independent thinker. Not just in terms of who he is as a person, but who he was on Capitol Hill. He answered to the people of West Virginia. He didn't answer to the president. He didn't answer to contemporaries in the House or the Senate. He answered to the people of West Virginia. He let it be known, that is who I represent, that is who I'm here to represent, and that's what we're going to do. When we look on Capitol Hill right now, I was watching a few weeks ago, and I'm not here to judge Kash Patel, for example, in terms of the job he's doing or not doing or whatever. I'm simply talking about, did you see the way that he was talking to Senator Schiff, you know, Blumenthal and all? Come on, man. You know, you're the director for the FBI. So what I'm saying to you is this: you got a whole bunch of people that work under Trump. Are we really going to sit here in this audience today and have a discussion about decorum, how you talk to people, how you make sure that you conduct yourself? I'm not talking policy right now. I'm talking about that. And we're really not going to know where this emanates from? Let's stop that nonsense. I think got a whole bunch of people that want to emulate the President of the United States, who does not care.
We're going to talk about it. I'm going to take a break. We're going to keep the conversation going. Look, the only thing I'd say is, should it come from the top down? Of course. But sometimes it needs to come from the bottom up. And that's a collective responsibility. And that's why I love all of you for being here. We're going to keep the conversation going. However, I got to take a break, and I got to thank CW, our network partner at Nexstar, for carrying this for us up until this point. Thank you very much. For the faithful at NewsNation, you know this is where right and left come to be reasonable. We will continue the conversation right there. You can get it. And thank you so much to Sling for making us able to have this conversation with limited interruptions. We'll be right back after this on NewsNation, where the conversation will continue. Stay with us.
I think I'm going to take over.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, what a night. This has been so much more than we could have ever imagined. And I'm very thankful for that, and I'm thankful to you for it. Welcome back to NewsNation's Town Hall here at the Kennedy Center. We are in the Eisenhower Theater, and I believe that's a metaphor for the balance we're trying to achieve. I've been here all night with Stephen A. Smith, Bill O'Reilly, former senator and, of course, governor from West Virginia, Joe Manchin, who's been giving us that context of his time there as well. And I have Andrew Colvett and Adam Mockler. Andrew Colvett is from TPUSA. He was Charlie Kirk's very good friend. He's carrying forward the work on their podcast and on their movement, frankly. And Adam Mockler is part of the vanguard of digital media from the left. Young, smart, and very righteous about what he's doing. And we've been having some hard conversations tonight, and I think that's good. Because if you only had one of them here, here's my point, all right? This is the one thing I'll say about why News Nation works so hard to do this. If it were just Adam, does that really move the needle? Yeah, he's very compelling. But set against what? If you had just Andrew, yeah, he's very compelling. But set against what? The conversation is the cure. Not for social media, though, in terms of what they want to amplify. But here, we're trying to do it differently. We're trying to get us to a better place. I want you to respond to what we heard from the question the last time, Adam, and then I'll give you another audience question. You said you had something you wanted to say in response to the American University guy who runs the Republican club there and said that people came up and said they were happy that Charlie Kirk had been assassinated.
Yeah, I believe his name was Luke. He said that a bunch of young progressives were coming up and acting in insane ways. And as a young liberal, someone who's on the left, I just want to say I wholeheartedly condemn anybody who is saying insane things about Charlie Kirk, horrendous things about Charlie Kirk. Anyone who is spitting or shutting down conversation, that is not what America is about at all. And I can very easily condemn when my side is going off the rails, but I just ask the bare minimum from Andrew. When they're talking about gas chambers and group chats, can you condemn that?
Are we really going to do this again? No.
So you don't condemn it?
Your energy is so aggressive.
I love Hitler, gas chambers.
All right, hold on.
Can't condemn that.
Just easy, buddy. Okay, so there is a whole conversation that I want this to be attached to, okay? And the whole conversation is that we have a guy who's running for attorney general in Virginia.
I condemn that. But you can't condemn your side.
But your party is not disavowing it. It still supports this guy.
Name one Democrat that supports him in Congress who says, I support what he said.
Tim Kaine just got asked on CNN tonight and said, yeah, I still support him.
Supports what he said?
No, he doesn't support what he says, but he's not pulling.
So no Democrat supports what he said.
So you're going to parse. Okay, well, listen. I condemn what they say, but I still support them as people.
Thank you. Why did I have to pry that out of you?
You are parsing. It's basically a distinction without a difference.
J.D. Vance lied on your podcast today. He said these were young.
Whoa, look.
Yeah, I don't understand why this is.
I got some journalistic questions for you guys, so listen up. I have a research team, and before I say anything on the air, all right, and I got a worldwide audience, everything that I am going to say as far as analysis has to be backed up by facts. And I cite the facts, which is why I've been in this business for 50 years and have a big house in Montauk. Okay? I want to know where you guys get your information. Where do you get your information?
I have a diverse source. I think that if you just pay attention to online sources...
Just tell me where you get it.
CNN, Politico, but I also watch Fox News. I go online, so I use a lot of online sources.
Okay, so you get your information from the so-called standard media.
I said
CNN,
online, too.
This kind of MS, do you watch that?
No, I don't really watch the news. I read articles and I go online a lot.
Okay, so you read. Do you read any conservative publications?
Fox News, and part of my job is debating every day, so I do read a lot of Fox News. I watched a lot of Charlie Kirk as well.
Do you have a favorite publication that you go to on a fact-based situation? I read the Wall Street Journal every morning, all right? Liberal news pages, conservative editorial pages. And then I get other papers too, but that paper I trust more than the others. Do you have a favorite?
New York Times.
Now, that says something.
What does that say?
So does the Journal.
Well, it's, as I just pointed out, you've got both represented in that paper. The New York Times is a left-wing paper. I'm sure you know that.
Sure. I mean, they have
that's where you're going for your information. How about yourself? Where do you go?
I go to also a variety. For example, I read the Politico story that's in question. I happen to have a background in PR, so I'm a little bit different. So I actually read a lot of New York Times because I know the journalists there.
Okay,
so
but you need facts to sell Turning Point to young people. Mm-hmm. Where do those facts come from?
It just literally depends on the story. Yeah.
All right?
I'm not trying to evade.
No. National Guard going to cities to control mayhem. Where would you get facts on that?
Well, I knew a lot of the journalists that were on the ground covering this story, so I would.
So you would go to those.
Yeah.
journals.
For example, when Nick Sorter got arrested, I called him.
Okay.
When Katie Davis Court got.
Do you know what happened in 1963 with John F. Kennedy?
I possibly do. Which
no,
reference?
you don't. Now, I'm not trying to demean either of you. Do you know what happened in 1963 with John Kennedy?
John F. Kennedy in 1963. He got.
No. Policy.
No.
Yeah, I was going to
You
say,
don't
well, there's
know.
a big thing.
Now,
Is there a point?
Yeah, where are you leading us?
Here's the point.
Okay, thank you.
These guys are very successful.
Yes.
They don't know enough. And I'll just give you a brief. Kennedy, 1963, Alabama, George Wallace would not obey federal integration law. Would not obey. Kennedy sent 17,000 U.S. soldiers to Alabama. 17,000.
Guard.
Eisenhower did it before him, and on both bases, it was different than what we're dealing with today. And it's very, very different than what we're dealing with today.
If you look at what Kennedy did, it's the same exact thing as not obeying U.S. immigration law.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't, because they're not disobeying the law.
You look it up.
The states are not disobeying the law. ICE is doing its job
there is
in those
federal
municipalities.
Law.
It's not like Wallace not letting the kid into the school. I disagree.
It's exactly the same.
I don't agree.
I know you don't.
I know, but let me get the audience question, and then we can keep the conversation going.
The point that I wanted to make, because I think these guys are bright, and I think that they're well-intentioned. You got to know as much as you can know. And you can't go to the New York Times and think you know the story. And you can't go to people who are in Turning Point and think you know the story. You've got to be skeptical. You have got to seek it.
Are you referring to the invocation of the Insurrection Act?
Yes, he is.
The Insurrection Act says that in order for the president to mobilize them, they have to be defying state law. So in segregation, they were defying state law.
I'm sure you know what the supremacy clause is. Federal law trumps state law.
Yeah, but there's a second part. The Posse Comitatus Act then says
that has nothing to do with immigration law.
Cannot act as
Posse Comitatus has nothing to do with immigration.
What law is Chicago breaking, or at least the people in Chicago?
Chicago is a sanctuary city and state because of their politicians.
So it's legal in Chicago?
No, they will not cooperate with the federal government in finding people here illegally. That is a violation, just as George Wallace would not cooperate with the federal government.
Except they litigated the sanctuary city laws, and they were found to be constitutional. So it doesn't meet the criteria.
You're going to lose in the Supreme Court, and then
then do it.
I'm going to hammer you
the
so
Supreme
bad.
Court, that's called justice. That's called justice. You just said revenge is wrong, retribution is right. That's just petty vengeance. Let's have your question. What is it?
Hi, my name is Mike. I'm from Reston, Virginia. I'm a small business owner, renewable energy. And
speak up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cuomo.
Nobody gets a break from this guy.
You guys, just wanted to say that really quick. Stephen A., I watch First Take every morning. As an Eagles fan, I support all your Cowboys content. Go Birds. My question is for Andrew. And first, I want to say I also support Turning Point USA. I was a huge Charlie Kirk fan, and I am devastated by his assassination, and my condolences for your loss.
Thank you so much.
My question, actually, though, is a much different tone and about the Super Bowl. I heard that Turning Point was planning an alternative Super Bowl halftime show.
Yes.
I wanted to know if that's true and why.
Yeah, actually, the truth is we are planning an alternative halftime show, and it basically was something that memed itself into existence. We joked about it on a show, a streaming show with Tim Pool, me and another guest named Jack Posobiec, who maybe you might know. And the audience response was so immediate and viral, and our inbox was flooded that we sort of said, maybe we should think about this. And then we got a bunch of emails from actual, corporate media saying, is this true, is this true? And I was like, well, it wasn't, but maybe we should consider it. And I think it was just an organic outflow of the fact that a lot of people are offended at maybe some of the programming that is being planned for the Super Bowl, and maybe some of the commentary that's come off of that. But also, I like to think it's more of a positive thing because, you know, with the memorial of Charlie Kirk, and we had, you know, 120 million people streaming that, and we saw that beautiful worship music, and it was a very uniting moment for a lot of people. Maybe not everybody, but for a lot of people, it was really beautiful. And I think people still had that feeling in their hearts about that.
Who's going to be the entertainer? Who are you bringing in?
We're not ready to make any announcements.
Not ready.
He's making his bid.
This time I'm going to push back against you a little bit.
All right. Well, I kind of like the malicious rabbit. I think the
malicious rabbit.
Yeah.
I want to.
I'm giving the bunny a chance.
Thank you for your question. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Andrew Colvett, I appreciate you. You're always welcome. Adam Mockler, I appreciate you. You're always welcome to the conversation.
Adam,
fellas, thank you both for joining us tonight. Now, I want to give you an opportunity to get a very unique take on what happened tonight, okay? A balanced perspective, because that's the only way we do it at News Nation. It is the harder way to do it. I can't tell you, this hairline should be here. If I were just playing to his side, it would be. But it's worth the effort. So, representative from Tennessee is Tim Burchett, okay? Folksy. Openly hostile to what can happen in the House of Representatives, which is so helpful to people to understand. And Amisha Cross. She was part of the Obama communications team, all right? She is a lifer when it comes to understanding politics from Chicago to D.C. Obviously, one is on the left, one is on the right. Both can be reasonable. And I want to introduce them both to come out right now and give us their take on the evening.
They're making a lot of money.
Thank you very much for your patience and your indulgence. My man. It's good to see you. Thank you. Have a seat. All right. Bill wants to know where you get all your information from. And I'll just let you know now, it's not adequate. I just want you to know right now. So you've been listening, you've been paying attention. Thank you very much for doing it. It is great to see you both. Amisha, what do you make of what you were hearing and feeling tonight?
Well, I think that you all have done a very good job. Both the left and the right were represented. I love the questions that are coming from the audience. I am glad that Stephen A. came back. With that being said, I do think that a lot of people are getting their information off social media, be it whether that is right or wrong. But in addition to that, the temperature does have to come down. Some of the things that I have seen from friends who are engaged in the political space have, quite frankly, been embarrassing. We can disagree, and we disagree often. However, there's a way to disagree. I have been friends with Burchett for quite some time. Politically, we don't agree on a lot of things at all. I think that there's a way to have those debates and that conversation without being somebody who either shuts off the other side or somebody who presents themselves in a very dangerous fashion. And I think that today in our politics, that's something that has, for whatever reason, become acceptable, and it can't.
Tim, I hear you the other day, and you're standing next to, he's part of a coalition to pass a bill that is one of my favorite things that I've seen happen in the House, which is there's no way anybody in this audience can argue that members of Congress should be trading stocks while they're in office, especially when people come before their committees and they're allowed to then trade in those stocks. It's crazy. So Tim gets behind it. He wants it. He's standing there with AOC, okay? And he says in this straight tone, he's like, now AOC here, I wouldn't trust her to tell me what time it is, but I like very much that we're working together on this. And I thought it was a beautiful encapsulation of you as a genuine guy, and that you will work to get it done if it's the right thing to do. So thank you for doing that, Bill. America needs it. So what'd you think of tonight, handsome?
Oh, I enjoyed it. Mr. O'Reilly, I was glad he finally came out of his shell a little bit there. And Mr. Manchin here, he finally got some backbone. Both these guys, I've admired them from afar and up close. I like gutsy people in politics. And I think the thing you got to realize, though, with folks is that, I can respect a liberal. I respect Cortez. She's my buddy. I mean, she's a Marxist. She's a friendly neighborhood Marxist, as I always call her. And I say stuff to her. She'll get on one of my videos, and I'm walking off the floor of the House, and I'll say, I say, hey, Cortez, and she go, hey, Burchett, and I go, I tell people, don't look at her too long, she'll steal your soul, you know, and we have that kind of relationship, and we can joke about it, and that's the trouble with what's going on in this country right now. Steve Cohen, probably as far left as you can be, you know, he's Jewish, and I try to be a Christian. We came from Tennessee together. We raised the speed limit together. You know, and we were kind of, I always joked, we'd go out to eat dinner at night because he was so far to the left and I was so far to the right, we met on the other side. But honestly, sometimes I just want to scratch his eyes out, you know, but he called my mama when my daddy died, and you can't get past that. And that is what we've lost in this thing. And we had that in Tennessee. We had a, you know, we would fight like cats and dogs, and then we'd go cry at our, you know, with our friends' funerals. And I just think Washington, D.C.'s past that. And I think, and people think it's changing. I don't think it's changing because it sells. The violence and the bigotry and the hatred sell. And that's why you see a lot of these, I think, maybe I'm stepping on some toes, but I'll stop. But I think you see a lot of these foreign countries, you know, if they don't have their young people killing each other, it doesn't keep those old dirtbags in power. And that's all sides.
Very sad to hear what he just said, because it reeks of hopelessness. And one of the things that I try to remind a lot of my Democratic friends that I know is Obama. They talk about his presidency in 2008. Well, I say it was in 2004 when he gave a speech at the Democratic National Convention, and he said, we're not blue states, we're not red states, we're the United States of America. And if we've gotten away from that to a point where we're engaging in vitriol, no decency whatsoever towards our fellow man and women, everything is about hatred, it's about divisiveness. Where does that leave us? I refuse to be hopeless. I refuse to believe that when you have the people up here and the people that have been here on this stage, and you think about the reach that all of us has and the reach that so many others out there have, that we can't have a profound enough impact to make a difference. Because the day we accept that it's hopeless, what purpose will we serve? And what state of our nation can we expect to have? I don't think like that at all. I think all of us have the power to make a difference, especially people with a microphone and a camera that has an ability to disseminate to the masses in a fashion where you can reach millions, if not billions, considering the digital world that we're living in today. You can have an impact. I believe most folks here in the United States of America are rife with common sense. And we can deduce right from wrong. We can deduce what's crossing the line. We can deduce the difference between a third rail and something that doesn't come close to it. I'm not hopeless in that regard. I refuse to be, because the day I refuse to be, what damn purpose will I serve for being on the air?
If I didn't believe that, I'd go home.
Yeah.
Let me say this, if I can.
Senator, please.
Last time, and those who can remember the 2008 presidential campaign, and John McCain was standing there, and there's a question thrown at John and denigrated Barack Obama as his opponent. And John says, whoa, 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 wait, ma'am, I'm so sorry. No, this is a good man, good Christian man. I know him well. We just disagree. We have a different philosophy. We disagree. But he's a good man. You can't basically try to hate someone, denigrate him because that justifies you hating him or not voting for him. Just don't vote for him. That's all. But you don't have to basically tear him down. And that was the last time we've seen that on a national stage. No, not any other time but that.
It's the last time it was rewarded also.
2008.
Right? It was the last time people said he did the right thing, as opposed to he's a sellout. Bill, what's your big takeaway from the night?
That you're still standing, Cuomo. I came in with a lot of, you know. Cuomo does a good job. I give him a lot of grief, and he deserves every bit of it. But he does a good job, because we're now into this for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And kept it moving. You guys liked it, right? I'm watching. And I thought we had a very good panel, and people spoke from the heart. I didn't see a lot of phony stuff, because I'm not big on phony stuff. But I think you did a nice job, Cuomo, and that was my takeaway.
Thank you. I'll take it.
But you have to agree he does have a funny accent, right?
Yeah. He was what?
He has a funny accent.
You know,
Cuomo?
I'm from East Tennessee. It's
He's
the only
from
place in
Queens.
America where people don't have an accent.
Now, let me just tell you this. Let me tell you this, Congressman. If you go to Queens
It's Tim.
and speak the way you speak, you'll get beat up.
All right, listen, I brought you guys on last because I wanted to hear what you had to say. Your opinion matters to me, to you both, for different reasons, but the opinion matters. And I want to thank Joe Manchin for being my friend and being a fair source for the American people. I want to thank Bill O'Reilly and Stephen A. Smith, as I said at the beginning, for adding your cachet and your credibility to our efforts at NewsNation. Most of all, I want to thank all of you. This was a very ambitious thing for NewsNation to do as a startup. It is not the easiest way or the most successful way to make noise in the media today and revenue and relevance as a result of that, but we know it's the right way. We know conversation is the cure, and we know that playing to a side is killing us. So thank you for being part of the solution. Thank you for being part of NewsNation, where right and left can come to be reasonable. God bless. Have a good night. Thank you, brother. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.